Douglas Murray today has put forward a proposal or an invitation. I suspect it's part of a concerted campaign that Mr. Farage should set up a new party to tackle, quote, illegal, end of quote, migration. And he says that 16% of the public would be interested in backing a new political party led by Mr. Farage to deal with the growth in illegal migration. And this is partly in response to the fact that the current government isn't able to tackle it, and partly to deal with the belief that it is tackled properly in other countries, notably Australia. The Australian system is invoked both by the Conservative Party and indeed now by the Labour Party. The Australian system in this article is pointed out as composed of two things. Number one, going slow, and number two, exporting the problem to an offshore territory, a neutral territory, he says here, where their claims could be slowly processed. Well, we've done the first bit. We did the first bit actually back in, years ago, in the days of Mrs. May, when she proclaimed a hostile environment, and the Home Office noticeably went slower. And that wasn't only a go slow in terms of dealing with asylum claims, it was go slow in terms of dealing with any form of visa. Student visas, for example, became heroically tardy and difficult to process, difficult to maneuver if you were a student, and any form of interface with the Home Office became a nightmare. I don't know whether anybody's tried to get their passport renewed, but it is horrific. And so we've done the first part, to go slow. The second part is to offshore the problem, and Priti Patel tried to do that to Rwanda, and Suella Braverman, of course, dreams of doing that. And this is supposed to send a signal to people that coming to the UK is not an easy option. It is, of course, also reneging on our agreement, our international agreement signed in 1947, I think, and 1951, and there are no further paragraphs added. So it's questionable whether or not the Australian process is something that should be championed, but whether it should be or shouldn't be, we're already well in the middle of that process. What would Mr. Farage offer beyond more rhetoric? Well, that's what he's good at, and he has proven in UKIP and the Brexit Party that he can master and pass on a slogan as well as anybody else in politics. Indeed, I think he's rather better than most people in politics. And I also think he's fundamentally wrong. So his latest charge is against Albanians putting a flag of the Albanian nation on the plinth below the statue of Winston Churchill. But I think this whole thing is about a campaign to get Mr. Farage back into mainstream politics. I think, frankly, although I don't agree with a lot of what Mr. Farage says, I think that is exactly where he belongs. He may be the only person who can provide the opportunities that Brexit apparently promised, and he should be held to that promise. He should be held to demonstrating what are these opportunities, where are they, how do we find them, how do we access them, how do we make them grow, bloom, flourish. Because at the moment I see no opportunities in Brexit. I would love to sit down with Nigel and say, where are these opportunities? Please tell me about them. Because I remember very well the way his UKIP party worked, and the fact that he turned a blind eye to anything that wasn't entirely in his favour or under his control. He turned a blind eye. He wasn't interested in the width of racism which ran through the party, and he certainly wasn't interested in the pursuit of real office and real responsibility. So I think it would be extremely good to get Nigel back into mainstream politics. I think the better option is for him to accept a place in the House of Lords and then to be held to account for the Brexit, which indeed he encouraged.